will be the coach of the year in 2025? Welcome, football fans, to another BR NFL Daily. I'm Mitch, here to give you my prediction for the coach of the year in 2025. I'm going to give you 5 candidates, 5 coaches that I believe could win the award. We're going to break down their argument for being a candidate. And then also, I'm going to explain why I believe my pick is going to win the award. But let me know in the comments what you guys think. Who is going to be the coach of the year? Who's going to be the guy that wins that award? And ultimately, when you talk about the Coach of the Year award, it's a narrative award. It's an award based on not exactly who is the best coach in the NFL, right? Andy Reid would have a lot more Coach of the Year awards. But it's given to the coach that has to overcome the most. It's given to the coach that is the biggest surprise, or the team that is the biggest surprise. It's a narrative-driven award, ultimately. So you have to keep in mind which teams you think could break out this year, which teams might be surprising, which teams might be sleepers. Those are all things you have to talk about when we're talking about coach of the year. And I also have quite a few new coaches that I think could come on the scene with new teams and win this award. So let's begin with our number 5 candidate. And guys, I'll be checking the chat, so make sure you're active and let me know your predictions and let me know if you agree or disagree with my candidates. So at number 5, I have Mike Macdonald of the Seattle Seahawks. My logic when it comes to Mike Macdonald is that he's already seen, entering his second year as a Seahawks coach, as a defensive guru, as a defensive genius. And I think a big narrative for Coach of the Year is being a coordinator at an elite level where the NFL and the media recognizes you as a very special coach. And Mike Macdonald is a younger name that is growing. He's growing that legacy, that legitimacy in terms of being the top name on defense in the NFL. And last year, Seattle, they picked up 10 wins. They were 10-7, and they kind of matched expectations, maybe even surpassed expectations just a little bit. I actually think it was a really impressive season when you look at what he was able to do, because he was able to move on from the Pete Carroll era, which is, first of all, difficult to do, establish his own team building philosophy, his own culture, right? And then throughout the season, you saw Seattle's defense go from pretty bad at the start of the year, Macdonald making some adjustments, and then by the end of the season, they ended as a top 10 defense in the NFL. So now with a full offseason to work, with the personnel on defense that he chose himself and that he truly wants, he's going to be able to craft one of the best defenses in football. And if Seattle is going to surprise, if Seattle is going to make the playoffs, if Seattle is going to take a step forward, it's going to be on the back of Mike Macdonald. It's going to be on the back of his defense, right? It's going to be on the back of their secondary. When you're talking about Woolen and you're talking about Witherspoon and Love, they, of course, got Ernest Jones last year at linebacker. The front, when it comes to Leonard Williams, was their best defensive player last year. Byron Murphy entering year 2. They added DeMarcus Lawrence. This could subtly be one of the best defenses in football in Seattle. They also brought in a new quarterback in Sam Darnold, so he's having to navigate that. They also got rid of DK Metcalf, which narratively means that they're probably looking to take a step backward, or a lot of people in their minds think that's regression. But what if he's able to overcome that? What if he's able to, through his defense, through a running game, a rebuilt offensive line, squeak into the playoffs and win another 10 games this year? So I could see where Mike Macdonald is able to win this award because people are just impressed by his dominance of the defensive side of the football. So that's why I have him as my number 5 candidate on this list. Guys, we're going to get to our honorable mentions at the end of the video, there were plenty of guys that I thought of that could have taken this spot. But I think in terms of that name value and that like media hype, Mike Macdonald probably has the most. So that's why I put him at number 5. Okay, let's check the chat before I get to number 4. We've got Oliver in the chat. He says he's a Colts fan. What's going on, Oliver? Thanks for joining the chat. We also have Neptune, who says Mike Vrabel. Oliver says Andy Reid. Daniel Barry says, hey, everyone, happy Tuesday. The coach says Vrabel for the Pats will break out. The breakout boys will be a sleeper. I don't know if you mean the Cowboys will be a sleeper or if the Patriots will be a sleeper, but either way, they both could be sleepers. Nico says, hope Ben Johnson. I guess he's a Bears fan. Both of these coaches that have been mentioned may or may not be on the list, so stay tuned for that. Let's also get to the BR chat. What do we have in here? Mike in Seattle. That was the first comment. Nice. Vrabel from Bruins. Ben Johnson from Carter. Stefanski 3 times. Stefanski? That would be pretty crazy. NP says, let's go, Mike. Seahawks making the Super Bowl this year. Sam Darnold had the most long ball yards last year. You pair him with Cup and MVS, kind of scary. Well, I would not say Cup's a deep threat, but that's fair enough. Mike Macdonald says Julie. So a lot of people like the Macdonald pick. I like that. All right. At least people agree. That's nice to see in the chat. Keep them coming, guys. Let's get to our number 4 candidate on the list. Our number 4 is Liam Coen of the Jacksonville Jags. Liam Coen was one of the most impressive offensive coordinators last season, using just 2 metrics to showcase his impact on Baker Mayfield, Mike Evans, and the Tampa offense. He took the Tampa offense from 20th in points in 2023 in Baker's first season with the Bucs to 4th. He also took Tampa's league worst rushing offense. They were the worst rushing offense in not only 2023, but also in 2022 with Tom Brady. He took that 32nd in yards per attempt all the way to 3rd. So Liam Coen was a magician for Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now he moves inside Florida to a new team. Now he's become the head coach of the Jacksonville Jags, and he has plenty of work to do. But he also has plenty of potential in Jacksonville because Jacksonville has some talent. First of all, Trevor Lawrence was known as a generational prospect, and at times in the NFL has showcased some flash of being a really good quarterback. 2021 in particular, he had a really good season and even took the Jacksonville Jags to the playoffs. Can Liam Coen turn around Trevor Lawrence? That is goal number 1. If he's able to do that and get Trevor Lawrence playing near a top 12 level in the NFL this year by doing some of the things he did with Baker Mayfield, getting him a better run game and balance, using play action, getting him better protection up front, using the screen game and the quick game to get rid of the ball. And then, of course, capitalizing on explosive plays with those explosive wide receivers, which is question number 2. Can Brian Thomas Jr. become one of the best receivers in football this year, going from an awesome rookie to a sensation? Can Travis Hunter be as good as the hype suggests? And how will Liam Coen deploy Travis Hunter? That's another thing. That's where eyeballs are going to be on Jacksonville. This is like a team that typically can't have a coach of the year candidate because people aren't watching Jacksonville. But now that Travis Hunter's actually there, that's going to make them more interesting. So Liam Coen is going to have eyes on him because, okay, what is he doing with this offense? How is he getting the most out of Trevor Lawrence? What's he doing with Travis Hunter? How's Brian Thomas looking? And then can Travis Etienne maybe have a bounce back season in the backfield? So there's a lot of pieces to work with here. There's a new and improved offensive line. And if Coen can make this team exciting, if he can make them electrifying, if he can just make them competitive to the level where they're maybe making the playoffs or like really close to the playoffs, he probably would have to squeeze into a wild card spot to win the award, truthfully, because usually a team that makes the playoffs wins this award. You don't usually see a guy that's like 8-9 winning the award. So he'd probably have to finish 9-8, 10-7, but that's doable in an AFC South that even its top team in the Texans has a lot of questions. Tennessee is flawed completely with a rookie quarterback and not a very good coach. And then Indy doesn't have a quarterback. So Jacksonville could be a team that maybe takes people by surprise. They're maybe a bit of a sleeper, and they could be a sleeper top 10 offense with this new, great, brilliant play caller, Liam Coen, who could win Coach of the Year if everything goes right. So he is my number 4 candidate on the list. Let's get back to the chat before we hit number 3. We have, let's see, anything from YouTube? Did I miss it? We've got Nico, who says he sure is a Bears fan. Bear down. Coach of the year will be Mike McDaniel, winning the division in the AFC East, says Pete's Takes. I don't agree with you. I think the Dolphins are going to be much worse than they've been in previous seasons. But I will say, Pete, if the Dolphins win the AFC East over the Buffalo Bills, he will win Coach of the Year. So you're probably right about that. I will give you that one. Okay. I will give you that. Okay, let's get to our number 3 on the list, which is my favorite coach in the NFL. That is Kyle Shanahan of the San Francisco 49ers. Kyle Shanahan should have won probably like 3 Coach of the Year awards already, but he hasn't won a single one, which is interesting. 2019, breakout season, number 1 seed in the NFC. They made the Super Bowl, no Coach of the Year. 2021, surpassing a lot of injuries, getting to the playoffs, upsetting not 1, but 2 teams in the playoffs before losing in the NFC Championship. And then in 2022, he took not 1, 2, but 3 quarterbacks to an NFC Championship, including Mr. Irrelevant. He did not win the Coach of the Year in any of those seasons, but he has proven to be one of the best coaches in the NFL. Why could Kyle Shanahan win the award this year? Well, not only does he have the lineage and the exposure of being a guy that hasn't won it already and probably should have already, which is kind of like a Josh Allen thing if you're talking about the MVP from last year, where it's like, why has Josh Allen not won the MVP? That's kind of like Kyle winning the Coach of the Year. But on top of that, this could be a huge bounce back season for Kyle Shanahan and also a huge prove it season for Kyle Shanahan, because last year they had a 6-11 campaign after making the Super Bowl and being pretty much the most dominant team in the NFL. So after dropping off, people are going to have questions about the team. And this is probably the most questions anyone's ever had about this tenure of the 49ers. Brock Purdy just got paid. Can Brock Purdy still play at that elite statistical producing level in this offense now that maybe the team isn't quite the same? Can he still do this, Kyle Shanahan and the Niners, with Christian McCaffrey maybe being there, maybe being injured? There's questions there. Can Christian McCaffrey still play at that same level? Can Brandon Ayuk come back from the injury and not really give the team a bunch of drama and actually play well? Then you have Ricky Pearsall maybe developing or maybe not. That's a question there. George Kittle's a little bit older. Trent Williams a little bit older. There's questions on the offensive line at left guard and center. What is that going to look like? How's the offense going to perform? Can they still be an elite offense? And that's, of course, Kyle Shanahan's forte. He's one of the best, if not the best play caller in the NFL. So if he can get this offense back to being truly elite, the way they were in 2023, the best offense in football, if he can get them back to like top 5, top 7, that's going to help him a lot. But then on the defensive side of the football, the 49ers also have a ton of youth, ton of young players that people don't know, right? A lot of guys that are new to this team. Robert Saleh has returned, which will help Kyle. But I do think that the fact that there's a lot of questions on offense, a lot of questions about the offensive line, a lot of questions about the defense because they're young, I think that's going to help Kyle and his candidacy, or whatever that word is, to be able to win this award, okay? Then you throw in what we're showing on the screen, the schedule. This is the easiest schedule in the NFL. And if Kyle is going to win this award, I don't think it would be shocking if the Niners made the playoffs. That's not how he's going to win the award. But if the 49ers did win the division over the Rams, and also maybe if they were even a top 2 seed, I think that would go to the level of like, okay, this guy deserves the award now because he's taken this young team, this injured team, this team that wasn't very good last year, and he's made it back into a contender. So if Kyle's able to do that with this schedule, which as you guys can see there, not many difficult opponents on that schedule. So if he's able to win 11, 12, 13 games, which is very doable, given that they still have some pretty darn good players and a lot of locker room chemistry and a great coach, then it's very possible that Kyle Shanahan could finally win the elusive Coach of the Year award. So at number 3, I have Kyle. Let's get to the chat before we get to number 2. Ben Johnson, hands down, we have in the chat. Dave Canales from Hot Mike. that's a good one. That's actually one that I thought about as a honorable mention, which we will talk about at the end of the video. Mark says Dave Canales will bring the Panthers back to the postseason. It could happen. I wouldn't rule it out. It could happen. If he does, he's probably winning Coach of the Year. I will say that. Again, at least you guys know what you're talking about here when it comes to how is a guy going to win the award? It's not just can he win the award, but how can he win the award? Making the playoffs helps. Okay, let's get to number 2. We've talked about him enough already. You've talked about him in the chat. It's getting irritating. Ben Johnson is number 2, okay? Ben Johnson, the Chicago Bears, is obviously a big candidate with the Chicago Bears because just like we talked about with Mike Macdonald, he has this reputation as a young, up-and-coming, brilliant mind in football. He is an offensive genius, right? That's his reputation. A lot like Kyle Shanahan when he began in San Francisco. He's an offensive genius. He is a great play caller. In my opinion, maybe the best play caller in football last season. He led the number 1 offense in the Detroit Lions last year with exquisite balance. I mean, incredible run game, fantastic play action game. Everything about the offense was art. Okay. So if he's able to do that and repeat that with a new team, a new cast of characters, a new quarterback, a new franchise, that would absolutely solidify himself as a Coach of the Year candidate. But what is he going to have to do? Right? Well, he has to lift Caleb Williams. That's first of all. He has to lift him to the promise of what we expected from Caleb Williams. And to be honest, I thought Caleb Williams was pretty awful as a rookie. I'm much lower on Caleb entering the year than many other people because I thought he was bad, outright bad. A lot of people blamed the situation, the coaching, the offensive line, but I think Ben has a lot of fixing to do when it comes to Caleb Williams, when it comes to his pocket presence, when it comes to his ability to get rid of the ball and go through his reads. Even apparently studying tape would be helpful for Caleb Williams. So can he maximize his talent and maximize the offense? Which means with this new rebuilt offensive line, and I really like what Ben Johnson has, done with the Bears when it comes to his number 1 goal with his front office was to rebuild the offensive line. Joe Thuney, Jonah Jackson, right? Drew Dahlman, get that offensive line installed to where he can get his run game going. He can protect Caleb and get the most out of that. Okay. And if they're able to get some balance in the offense, that's going to take pressure off Caleb. If he's able to elevate that run game led by Roschon Johnson, DeAndre Swift, if he's able to elevate that run game kind of like Liam Coen did last year with Tampa Bay, well, then that would go a long way in his ability to win the award as well. And then there's also narratives when it comes to the division. A lot of people still see Chicago as the worst team in the division. It's the most difficult division in the league. You've got the Vikings, you've got the Packers, you've got the Lions, all teams that are expected to do better than the Chicago Bears. But if he's able to finish second in this division, he doesn't even have to win the division. But if he finishes second and he makes the playoffs, or, the 7 seed at 9-8 or something like that, even the third best team in the division, and they squeak in as the 7 seed, he very well could win the award. Because we'll be talking about how Ben Johnson was able to turn around a 5-12 team. He was able to turn around Caleb Williams. He was able to get the most out of these playmakers, whether it be DeAndre Swift, who we talked about, or it be the young tight end Colson Loveland, or it be DJ Moore getting a bounce back season, or it be Roma Dunze having a breakout season. There's so many ways that this could go in his favor. And then last, I kind of feel like this is just a team that's been talented, but not pointed in the right direction, not led well, right? So they've had talent, but now with a real coach, can he just put it all together? And that's something that we can see with our eyes when we watch them play. So it wouldn't be surprising at all if Ben Johnson had a breakout season with the Chicago Bears and won the Coach of the Year. So he is my number 2 candidate. Before we get to my number 1, we have in the chat Jonathan Gannon, as I mentioned. Jonathan Gannon, also a guy that I want to talk about after I'm done. He is not my number 1, though, but somebody that I definitely thought about for sure on the list. I like a lot of these comments. You guys are pretty accurate on your stuff right now. Devin does not like the 49ers. He says that Pete Carroll is a sleeper. Dan Quinn. I don't think Dan Quinn's going to win. Honestly, Dan Quinn probably should have won last year, to be honest. Dan Quinn could have easily won last year. A lot of people gave him, the credit of that team to Jaden Daniels. Fair enough. And they gave the award to Kevin O'Connell, which is also fair enough. But Dan Quinn could have easily won last year. I don't think Dan Quinn's going to win this year because the expectations are high for this team. So that's something you have to keep in mind, right? Narrative. The Browns, it's possible, but Stefanski's already won the award twice, which makes it a lot less likely that he's actually going to win the award. You know what I'm talking about? So I don't really see it. Jim Harbaugh, it's possible, but people he's relatively high, I think, in the odds. Jim Harbaugh is like higher than you would think, which is kind of strange to me. Like, I don't really understand. They have Justin Herbert. They made the playoffs last year. They won 11 games. Like, if anything, he would have won the award last year, right? Like, not this year. Like, aren't people expecting the Chargers to win or get to the playoffs? And some people are even picking them to win the division. So I guess the only way he wins the coach of the year is if the Chargers are like the number 1 seed in the AFC and they surpass the Chiefs. I guess I could see that, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Maybe it's also like a collective thing where last year and this year combined, people were like, wow, look at how Jim Harbaugh turned this team around. I guess I could see that to a certain degree. Okay, let's get to our number 1 candidate, the guy that if I had to pick and put some money on to win this award, I would put my money on Mike Vrabel. Okay, I would put my money on the Patriots Hall of Famer to take the Patriots back to the playoffs. That's what I would do. And of course, I'm biased. So you guys can put in the chat, Mitch, you're a biased Patriots fan. What are you talking about? Okay. First of all, Mike Vrabel has the most significant challenge of probably any of these coaches on this list, considering that the Patriots were 4-13 last year. They were 4-13 with arguably the worst offensive line in football, with arguably the worst receiving core in football, with one of the worst defenses in football. This is a team that was extremely poorly coached. And that's why I think Mike Vrabel has a legitimate chance to turn this team around in one season. Because under Gerard Mayo, this team was horrifically coached, horrifically prepared, okay? It was much worse than the Bill Belichick last season, which was bad, okay? So this team has been actively terrible for 2 years. But with a great offseason that I believe they've had, when you talk about drafting Will Campbell, bringing in Morgan Moses on the offensive line, or you talk about what they did in the draft with the playmakers that they did add to the backfield and the receiving core to help Drake May, Stephon Diggs at wide receiver, the defense with Milton Williams and Carlton Davis and Robert Spillane and Harold Landry. These are pieces that are going to give Mike Vrabel enough talent and enough leadership to inspire change. And what Mike Vrabel does better than most is get more out of less. He showcased that in Tennessee. He was the coach of the year in 2021 because he led a Titans team to the number 1 seed with a fairly average quarterback in Ryan Tannehill. In this day and age where you're competing in that AFC against Joe Burrow and Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen, Mike Vrabel had the number 1 team in the AFC in the regular season, and it was the most injured team in the NFL. Okay? Period. He also was able to take them to a surprising playoff run in 2019, another playoff seeding in 2020, and really his culture, he installs belief in a team. And if Drake May takes that expected step forward and this team builds and believes in Drake May and what Mike Vrabel and his message is, then this team could really surprise. They have the second easiest schedule in the NFL, only behind the previously mentioned 49ers. They have plenty of winnable games on this schedule. And I think the number 1 thing we'll see with the Patriots is we'll see Mike Vrabel football. We'll see taking care of the football. We'll see situational excellence. We will see punishing defense. We'll see a ground game. right? We'll see toughness and grit. This is a blue-collar coach that will lead a blue-collar team. And that will be evident by, from the voters. I think everyone will be able to see the impact that he's made on this team. Everybody will be able to see it. So if he can turn around the sinking ship of the Patriots, turn them from a 4-win team to a 9, a 10, 11-win team, that's easily a guy that could be crowned the coach of the year. And not only could he do it this year, but he's already proven to do it before. So that's why I picked Mike Vrabel as my prediction to win coach of the year. So there it is, guys. That would be my number one pick. My honorable mentions that I left off the list, we didn't mention Pete Carroll in the chat. Pete Carroll is one of those guys. The difficulty with Pete Carroll is that Pete Carroll is coaching the Raiders, and the Raiders are in the AFC West, and the AFC West has the Chiefs, the Chargers, and the Broncos. So in order for Pete Carroll to actually win the award, he's going to have to outperform one or two of those teams and probably make the playoffs, right? Like, he's not going to win the award if they're 7-10, even if he had a great year coaching, right? Even if he, just like Mike Vrabel, did a great job with the culture, infused some positivity, got the team going and pointed in the right direction, he's probably still not going to win the award if he's 8-9. He has to make the playoffs, right? It's possible because I think the offensive line's underrated. I really love Brock Bowers and Ashton Genty. I think Geno is one of the most underrated passers in football. And I do think that Chip Kelly on offense could also help Pete lead a good offense. And then Pete is known for just that positivity and that infectiousness where he can get this team believing in themselves each and every week. The defense has a very good defensive line. So there's a possibility that the Raiders could maybe surprise. It's just going to be really difficult in that division. So that's why I left them off, but I totally see the vision. Jonathan Gannon, that was the closest guy, in my opinion, to being number 5. It was between him and Mike Macdonald. And Jonathan Gannon, I just feel like, is less recognized as a brilliant football mind than Mike Macdonald. So I lean towards Mike Macdonald, even though I actually think the Cardinals are more likely to be a better team. Okay. And as you guys can see, there's the betting odds right there. So plus 600 for Mike Vrabel, plus 700 for Ben Johnson. I think that's accurate as the top 2 guys. I'm a little surprised to see Aaron Glenn on the list because I just don't think there's much of a chance the Jets are very good, but it is what it is. But Jonathan Gannon was my number 2 just because I think he's a really, really up-and-coming coach. Like, he hasn't had the opportunity to have a really good, talented defense. And they finally did fix the defense this offseason, adding like a plethora of defensive line talent. So considering that they now have some defensive line tools and some defensive line pieces to work with, I feel like he's going to be a guy that, definitely could win that award. Then you have Kevin O'Connell. Kevin O'Connell won the award last year, but hey, Stefanski won the award within like a 3-year span twice. And O'Connell has another new quarterback in J.J. McCarthy. What if the Vikings win the NFC North this year with J.J. McCarthy as their quarterback? Can Kevin O'Connell not win the award? Like, the Vikings could be really good. They are very talented. What if they are the number 1 seed in the NFC with essentially a rookie quarterback? Could Kevin O'Connell not win it back-to-back years? It's possible. And then Dave Canales, kind of like what people already said in the chat, but if Canales could take the Panthers to the playoffs, an unexpected playoff berth, get more out of Bryce Young. Bryce Young has a breakout season, right? Hubbard has another 1,000 yards. McMillan's one of the top rookies. The defense actually doesn't play that bad. Like, if the Panthers are able to be like a 9-win team and surprise the Bucs and overcome the Bucs in that division and win the division, sneak up on them, like, Canales could definitely win the award. It's his second year, right? He looked a little bit out of place at the beginning of the first year, but you saw that momentum build and that culture form at the end of last season. So things are going to be pointed in the right direction for Canales in Carolina in year 2. So there's my list, guys. Those are my honorable mentions. Those are my top picks. Before we end it with a recap, I'm just going to read some of the comments that you guys left here that I didn't see yet. Sirianni gets no love. Philly gets no love. I don't see Sirianni winning the award because Philly is widely recognized as the most talented team in the NFL. And typically, the guy that has the most talented team in the NFL does not win the award. Just period. It's no hate against Philly, just the way it is. What else we got? Jazz says Ben Johnson seems like the next Josh McDaniels. Good OC, but not a good head coach. I doubt he has the personality to lead a team. That's a fair take. I mean, you're entitled to have that opinion. I'm just not sure that. Honestly, I'm a little surprised that Josh McDaniels never ended up being a great head coach because he has been a great offensive coordinator throughout his entire career. But I don't know. I mean, it feels like it works out more than it doesn't. Like when we're talking about guys like Kyle and McVay and LaFleur and even Mike McDaniel to a certain degree, like more often than not, when you're that good of a play caller in this day and age in the NFL, you're typically a pretty good offensive coach. I mean, and then you could go back to like Andy Reid, Sean Payton, etc. But it happened. It feels like it works more often than not, but we'll see. It could not work. Okay. YouTube. Did I miss anything on YouTube before I recap? Okay. D'Amico Ryans. That's an interesting one. I feel like D'Amico Ryans, he probably would have won it 2 years ago, right? Like D'Amico Ryans, did he win it? Who won it 2 years ago? I can't even. Oh, I think it was Stefanski, wasn't it? Yeah, D'Amico could have won it 2 years ago. I don't know. Everyone kind of expects the Texans to be really good or like the winner of their division. I guess the only way D'Amico would win it is if they're the number 1 seed in the AFC. I guess it's possible. If they're better than the Ravens, if they're better than the Chiefs, if they're better than the Bills, I guess. If I had to bet, Vrabel, says Mello, dude's a hell of a coach, and he has some pieces. Dolphins and Jets may end up being 3rd and 4th. Lawrence says the Bucks, Todd Bowles. I don't know if Todd Bowles, the only way I see that is like D'Amico Ryans, where it's like number 1 seed in the NFC. And Todd Bowles has a lot to overcome because I don't think a lot of people feel like he's the reason that they're successful. So he would have to have a great defense this season, his side of the football, to be able to justify that selection. Okay, so let's recap it for you guys. Let's begin at number 5, Mike Macdonald of the Seattle Seahawks. He's known as the young defensive guru of the NFL. What if Seattle sneaks into the playoffs with a top 5 defense this season? If Macdonald can take what he did late last season with that defense and make it even more elite in 2025, new quarterback, no Metcalf, I could see people buying into Mike Macdonald as the coach of the year. Liam Coen has plenty of decisions to make and plenty of opportunity in Jacksonville to become the coach of the year. But he has to turn around Trevor Lawrence and make people believe in him again. He has to turn around Travis Etienne, who had a terrible season last year. He has to get the most out of this offense, make them electrifying, exciting, and must-watch television with Travis Hunter. If he can do that, and if he can sneak up on people in a weak AFC South with his brilliant play calling, what he was able to do in Tampa, the pieces are going to come together for the voters where it's like, this guy's undeniable, one of the best at transforming an offense, and he could win the coach of the year. My number 3 is Kyle Shanahan. In a big prove-it year, could Kyle Shanahan have another epic coaching season? He didn't win the award in seasons that he probably should have, 2019 and 2022, to be specific. Kyle Shanahan has been at the top of the league in terms of coaching. Obviously, Super Bowl appearances, NFC Championship appearances, but this is the most questions that the 49ers have entering a season in quite some time. How good is Brock Purdy going to be now that he's paid? What's the offensive line going to look like? Is Ayuk even still going to be any good after this injury and all the drama? Is McCaffrey still McCaffrey? Is Kittle and Trent too old? Is the defense too young? Will Kyle be able to take the 49ers back to the playoffs? And if he's able to win the NFC West and maybe even 12, 13 games, the 49ers, that could be Kyle Shanahan's award to win. Then our number 2 candidate is Ben Johnson, another brilliant play caller. The Chicago Bears' new head coach needs to challenge Caleb Williams and make him what we thought he would be, which, just like Trevor Lawrence, is potentially generational as a talent, right? Caleb was really bad as a rookie. But if Ben Johnson can teach him, can tutor him, and can make him the guy that we thought, then that's going to go a long way. But not only that, getting more out of the ground game, getting more out of this new and improved offensive line and all the young playmakers. Rome Odunze with a breakout. Okay, Colston Loveland, first round pick. Can he be an epic tight end in his first season? DJ Moore with a bounce back. So that should all be considered, including in a really difficult division. If he can get them to the third best team in this division, maybe the 7 seed in the NFC, that's going to go a long way in his potential to win this award. And our number one is none other than Mike Vrabel. Can he turn a 4-13 Patriots team with probably the worst offensive line, the worst skill group, the worst coaching back into a playoff team? Can he push the Patriots back to the playoffs? And we know the Patriots still carry weight. They still carry narrative. They still carry a lot of news and buzz in the media. So if Mike Vrabel is able to have a breakout season from Drake May, get this defense back to a punishing level, if he is able to do that, and he's able to take the Patriots to a surprising 9, 10, 11 win season and be the number 2 team in the AFC East and be a playoff team, the 6 or the 7 seed, it wouldn't be shocking at all that the guy that won the Coach of the Year in 2021 wins the Coach of the Year in 2025. Mike Vrabel is my number 1 pick and my prediction to win Coach of the Year. There it is, guys, my top 5 candidates for Coach of the Year. It's been Mitch. You can check me out on YouTube, The Bottom Line View, where I cover all 32 NFL teams. Follow me on the BR app for more every Tuesday and Friday, and I think it's switching up soon. But you guys can check me out here on BR NFL Daily. And also, don't forget to like the video and check out more on YouTube as well. Thanks for watching. It's Mitch, and we'll see you soon. Peace.